Mariella on maxing your motor, second-hand people movers and the price of petrol at 8 tonight. That'll be the car show then. Meanwhile, events worldwide the award-winning way. Here's Katie.
Tonight on 5 News, Paul McKenna is cleared of making a man mad and demands an end to the hype over hypnotism. Also tonight, is Bill Clinton about to confess to a sexual encounter with Monika Lewinsky? And outrage at Paris's tacky tours retracing Diana's final journey. In sport, Lee'll have the latest on the eve of a new Premiership season. Plus, a blast from the past as the critics turn on Hollywood's new Avengers. First tonight, he says it'll cost him £1 million, but Paul McKenna walked from the High Court today with his reputation intact. The TV hypnotist was cleared of turning a man who took part in one of his stage shows into an aggressive schizophrenic. The judge said there was no evidence Christopher Gates had been affected by the performance. And now the star's demanding an end to the hype over hypnotism. In a moment, we talk live to Paul McKenna, but first, Mark Jordan reports on the fight to clear his name.
A hypnotic victory as a judge threw out the claim that hypnotist Paul McKenna mentally destroyed Christopher Gates. He'd wanted £200,000 in compensation. Instead, the show, accused of ridicule and humiliation, gets a green light back onto our screens.
But you know what, all this milking does make you feel a bit like I'm a machine, but you know...
The case was straightforward. Christopher Gates went to a Paul McKenna show and volunteered to go up on the stage. When he was up there, he was hypnotized and pranced around as a ballet dancer, impersonated Mick Jagger, was an outer-space alien and a naughty little boy. But 9 days later, he was in hospital, diagnosed as an acute schizophrenic. He was hearing voices from God and believed the Rover's Return pub from Coronation Street was talking to him.
Let's have a few more now.
Mr. Gates is a chronic invalid. He will never get better. He will always be on medication and he will never lead a normal life.
I'm not changing the show. There's nothing wrong with the show. It's been proved to be absolutely safe, and I'll continue doing the show.
But McKenna hasn't convinced the hypnotherapist who tried to help Gates after the show.
Christopher Gates came here, he sought your help. What sort of state was he in?
He felt, I've got his notes in front of me, his mind was racing all the time. He couldn't slow it down. He felt that somebody was playing games with his mind. I'm quite sure today, in spite of the judgment in the court, that stage hypnosis caused damage to Chris Gates.
But the judge said they hadn't proved it. Tonight, TV networks are once again planning the next show. Millions will laugh. Christopher Gates will not be among them. Mark Jordan, 5 News.
Well, Paul McKenna joins us now live from his London home. Thanks for joining us, Paul. Your name's been cleared, the show goes on, but will you change nothing about your act?
Well, I won't be changing anything about the act, but I must just say that I'm appalled by what I've just heard, where you aired a piece where Derek Crussell said certain things that I personally think were libelous. I'll be sending a tape of this to my lawyers. I can't believe you allowed that to take place. You probably weren't aware that he was criticised by the judge in this case for advising Mr. Gates to stop taking his medication.
The judge actually said in his summing up that hypnotism could affect the timing of a potential illness. Don't you accept any responsibility for what happened?
Excuse me, the judge said what?
The judge said it could affect the timing of a potential illness if somebody already had an illness that was about to come on.
Well, what the judge said was that in this case, hypnosis did not cause schizophrenia. And what he also said was I was not negligent and the show was not humiliating. The finest medical and psychological minds in this country, namely Dr. Reevely, who's an expert, probably the definitive expert on schizophrenia, feels my show is safe. Dr. Graham Wagstaff from the University of Liverpool, who again is probably the definitive expert on hypnosis in this country, says that my show is perfectly safe. So I listen to those people, the medical experts, I listen to the judge and the judgment, and I know that the show is safe, and I look at the judgment and, you know, I'm happy with that.
Okay, Mr. McKenna, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, will he or won't he? Reports from Washington tonight suggest Bill Clinton is ready to confess he did have a sexual encounter with Monika Lewinsky. The president's due to give evidence to a grand jury on Monday, and as Geeta Gurumurthy reports, while he may admit to an encounter, he'll say it wasn't a relationship.
Preparing to steer through the most perilous moments of his presidency.
Thank you, John, for the wonderful introduction, and even more for
Bill Clinton addressing Democrats over lunch, but his more critical talks have been with his inner circle, devising a strategy to confess to a sexual encounter without contradicting his denial of sexual relations. Temperatures must be rising in the White House.
As you know, we are experiencing the hottest summer on record.
The heat is on, and according to the New York Times, the president could rely on a narrow legal definition of sexual relations accepted by the judge in the Jennifer Flowers case in order to avoid committing perjury. Monika Lewinsky has testified that the couple had sex several times. Some believe the president won't be pursued if he's honest on Monday.
At the moment, in my judgment, Bill Clinton does not have a major legal problem. He has a political problem. His problem will change in character. It will become a legal problem if he were to perjure himself before the grand jury. Then he has a serious legal problem.
Clinton's difficulty is he doesn't know what evidence is coming in. The grand jury still await DNA tests on the blue dress, which it's claimed is stained with presidential semen. And Monika Lewinsky could be called back to give further evidence.
They can then explore with her in much greater detail her recollections of events for the purpose of either confirming or contradicting what the president has said.
There is a risk that by making any admission, Clinton will be seen as technically truthful if fundamentally dishonest. It's thought he may make a TV address after testifying. If he confesses from the map room of the White House, graphic detail is unlikely. It'll be just enough to try and save the presidential skin. Geeta Gurumurthy, 5 News.
And on Monday, we'll be live in Washington as Bill Clinton tells all to the grand jury. Now, some other stories making the news tonight. Cancer experts have condemned suggestions that teachers shouldn't apply sun cream to children. Education chiefs had backed advice that doing so might lead to accusations of sexual abuse. But the Cancer Research Campaign claims that without help, many children are at risk of developing skin cancer. The Labour leadership's under fire tonight from some left-wingers. They're accusing party managers of trying to stifle internal debate. They're angry that controversial motions at the party conference are to be discussed behind closed doors. And they're worried a new telephone voting system for the party's ruling NEC could be abused. The army is on standby tonight to help evacuate Britons from war-torn Congo. The Foreign Office has stepped up its warning for them to leave the West African country after rebel troops tightened their grip around the capital, Kinshasa. The United States has also sent warships to the region. Now, the parents of a missing British backpacker are flying to Australia tonight to join the search for their daughter. Celena Bridge disappeared while hiking along Queensland's Sunshine Coast last month. She'd been due to meet her boyfriend last weekend. He raised the alarm when she failed to show up. From Brisbane, 5's Belinda Cole reports.
Almost 1 month ago to the day, 28-year-old Celena Bridge walked down this road with her backpack to hitch a ride to a nearby forest. She hasn't been heard from since. Celena had been staying at Crystal Waters, an old hippie commune turned permaculture village 2 hours north of Brisbane. Jenny Clement, who lived next to Celena for 3 days, is the last person known to have seen her alive.
And she said she really liked it here and she would like to have stayed longer, but she wanted to see a lot more of Australia. Well, she had left it a bit late in the day to be leaving. It's about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and I remember thinking at the time, if I was her, I'd have left a lot earlier to make sure I got there and had a look around and pitched tent, and that before it really got dark.
Celena's fiancé, Jonathan Webb, reported her as missing when she failed to meet him at Brisbane Airport